Welcome to another episode of Powering the Future podcast. Today we're going to delve into the financial benefits of renewable spending, whether that's on solar or other renewable projects that you may have, and specifically what are the tax savings that are available at this current moment in time. I'd like to bring in Jake Iles from Six Forward. Welcome to Mazda today, Jake.
Nice to be here. Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite.
I understand you've co-authored a publication that looks at capital allowances and looks at how individuals can save through capital allowances. I'm just wondering if you could help us navigate that particular area for our listeners today. How would that benefit some of them?
Yeah, okay. Well, capital allowances is really complex, but very simply today, we just say that capital allowances are just simple tax reliefs that are given to businesses for the investments they make in plant and machinery and commercial property. So in the case of a dealership, that could be the loose items you'd see in the servicing department, or just actually out front in a showroom where people would install new lighting, new desks and things like that, and that's it really. So they're available whether you are buying a building, whether you are selling a building, or refurbing it and extending, or in this case, you're going to install some solar panels and then all the incidental costs associated with that. Okay, and that's it really, and it's very, very simple. So tax reliefs for investing in plant and machinery in commercial property. So I suppose there are a number of types of reliefs, but is there anything in particular you're interested in knowing?
Yeah, so for instance, if we were supporting a dealership on installing solar panels, let's say the capital costs were for the project were 150,000 or 100,000. How much of that can they actually get relief on?
Okay, so there are a number of positive reliefs within capital allowances, and the fastest and simplest is AIA.
Right, and what is AIA?
Yeah, well, AIA is annual investment allowance. And that allows you to offset 100% of the cost in the year of spend up to a limit of £1 million.
Okay.
So if rather than take the 150 number, just for the simple maths, I'll take the 100,000 number.
Please do, Jake.
For a solar spend of 100k, then you would, and assuming all of that qualified,
Right.
then times that by 25% on a corporation tax rate, £25,000. So your cost saving would be
25,000.
Yeah, 25%.
Okay. And what if I had a project where a dealership wanted to explore the possibility of having solar panels installed, and they had a feasibility study carried out? So that would be classified as a part of a initial analysis or development for the project, but it would eventually sit in the pool of the whole project. So would they be able to claim that back as well?
Yeah, I suppose independently that would be generally an expense rather than a capital project. But if you're going to include that in the overall capital cost, then a large part of that would be actually included, apportioned in the project in total.
Right. And what if that's split over into 2 years?
Then that's okay. So you can use annual investments in 1 year, and then in the second year, again, up to 100% in each tax year, up to £1 million per year.
Fantastic.
And Jake, do you see any of these changing in the future? We currently have government, England, UK PLC. Do you see any of those capital allowances changing now or in the future?
Yeah,
or
maybe. That's a good point. So I suppose if you go back to the project and its savings, then they're really good at enhancing return on investment. They can improve your cash flow, or you can just look at them as tax savings. And the purpose of capital allowances is to help investors with the level of their capital investment. Mm-hmm. However, of course, there's a spring statement coming up. Then there's another budget. There may be another government. Rates and timings are pretty much subject to change, and the legislation is always subject to change.
It's quite fluid, is it?
It can be fluid. Not always, but I think it's really worth it. Most of all, the best bit of advice always is while the allowances are available, take them.
Yeah.
And particularly in the year that you're spending the money. That's probably the best way.
Yeah. And is there some sort of tax planning that individuals would do to capitalise on those allowances?
Yeah,
you just mentioned over 2 years.
Yeah, but I think tax planning is a complex consideration, and that may depend on whether you've got a single entity business like a single showroom, or a multi-franchise. So I'd think long and hard about how you would utilise the reliefs available. So we talked about AIA being the fastest and simplest. There's also other reliefs like first year allowances, which are quite significant and pretty vital as well. So a 50% first year allowance applies to solar. It's part of what's called the full expensing regime, but 50% first year allowance relates to solar in this instance. So if you spend 100,000, keeping the numbers easy, let's say half of that, so that's 50,000 times 25%, I'll give you £12,500 of savings. What's interesting then is the balance, the other 50,000, can then get written down at 6% per year, including the first year, on top of that first year allowance, until all of that 50,000 is depleted in future years.
So that's quite significant savings, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and interestingly, I guess you can use, if you reach the limit of AIA, you can use the limit of AIA and FYA together.
Right.
So
okay.
it's quite nice, really.
Yeah.
But just needs a bit of consideration, either from the outset or pretty much, or at the end, depending on how you want to manage your cash flows, or you want to see your returns on investment.
And if this was carried out over multiple dealerships, but all part of the same cost centre, would that still apply as that 1 million?
The 1 million applies, yeah. The 1 million applies, but really just to the group.
Yeah.
So
sure.
it's almost more beneficial for a single dealership than a group.
Yeah.
But the group and the has the opportunity to do the first year allowances for solar, fine, but also it can access full expensing, which is also 100%. And there's no limit on that, but that's for other costs that are not solar panels.
Oh, okay.
But not all of it, but sometimes.
Okay.
Okay.
Brilliant.
And I suppose beyond that, there are the special rates that you can get for the 6% write down, and there's also a structures and buildings allowance, which is a 3% write down for moving things like walls, floors, doors, and ceilings, which you can claim for as well, which might come as incidental costs on a solar panel.
Yes. Does that also cover the roof repair costs? So let's assume a dealership wants to have solar panels, but they have an impaired roof, or they need to do a roof overclad. Would that cover that?
Potentially. I think every case on its merits.
Sure.
Just needs to make sure that they are qualifying within the. There are some specific requirements you need to qualify every single capital allowances claim,
right?
Because there is an act of law, and that gives it a certain credibility.
Right.
But in reality, every case on its own merits, but in the main, yes.
Okay. One final question for me.
Yeah.
What if the project required electrical infrastructure upgrades? Would that qualify for something like this?
So yes, always. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great.
So
Okay.
interestingly, you get a 50% first year allowance for the solar elements. Then electrics, cold water, lighting, and things like that also qualify for that as well.
Fantastic. Great.
Okay. I suppose going back to your point though, really about the limitations and when they're available, by taking it when it's available, I think knowing what they are, knowing what you've got, and I suppose really in order to maximise the relief, maintain the documentation, keep hold of it, know what you've got, and not least of all take some proper expert advice.
Sure.
And do that on your tax year type basis, or however you want to do it really.
Great.
Thanks for that, Jake. That's all really fascinating, and I'm pretty confident that the majority of our network will know all about these capital allowances, all of these tax reliefs, but it's really interesting to go into some of that detail. So what are the key takeouts? What should a dealership really take away from what you're saying today? What if there's one thing, what would that be?
I wouldn't say there was one thing in particular. Maybe there's three things I would say. But I sort of mentioned it briefly, but I think depending on the savings that you get, then you can look at that as an enhanced ROI for the investment you're making.
Yeah.
Obviously, capital allowances are going to reduce your tax liability, as I said, but also because if you get that 25k back on that 100k, that's 25k of cash that you haven't got to give to the taxman.
Yeah.
What else could you do with that in your business?
Absolutely,
that's
reinvest.
Do it that way. So that's not the 3 points I probably wanted to make, but they're all pretty much of a muchness. I think whatever you're looking at the numbers for, then take the relief when it's available, because we never know what's going to happen with the
No.
legislation. I think that's a really, really key point, and things have changed in the past, and there's a whole history of it. And I suppose most of all is take the best advice at the point that you engage in the project, and then make sure it actually achieves the results you want, whether that is in firm cash flow, enhanced return on investment, or whether you're just looking to reduce your tax liability.
Brilliant.
So start with the end in mind. I think you should be all right with it.
Thanks, Jake. So I guess some of the key takeaways that I've taken away from this is that there is an urgency. So people that want to do renewable projects or make financial savings, they need to act quite quickly and seek expert advice from people like Jake. Even if you have your own tax advisors, seek the right advice and make the investment better for you. Thanks, Jake. That was really insightful.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you everybody for listening, and we look forward to you joining us in our next episode.